So I want to thank you all for being here. Those of you on my staff, if you'll just let people in as they come, thank you very much. I want to tell you why I decided to do this. Ever since House Bill 255 was passed, um, the thought was, New Mexico restaurants could sell New Mexico spirits for an additional $500 on their beer and wine license. And to me, that was a boon for these restaurants. Um, at the time, I didn't know what kind of New Mexico spirits were out there. I had tasted a few, I think, gins and vodkas. I didn't know if we had any um, whiskey or agave spirits or anything else. So it's been kind of fun for me. In the last few weeks, I have done some um, podcasts with some of these distilleries, and so I would tell you to go over to our podcast and listen to some of those about a couple of the distilleries here in town or here in the state, because they have some fascinating liquors out there that I think would be just absolutely fun to put together in a restaurant. I can imagine my restaurants that I owned 20 years ago, how fun it would have been to be able to sell a gin, put together in a Cabernet barrel or something like that. I mean, I think it's a fascinating thought, and I think it's really wonderful for both industries. We've got a distillers industry, and we've got the restaurant industry, and together we can kind of bring New Mexico up. Same with our wines here in New Mexico as well. So we have some guests today. We have Philip Sanchez from the Alcoholic Beverage Control Division. Um, Scott Fuel from Taylor Garrett Distillery. He's the current president of the Distillers Guild, and Frank Holloway is from a member of the Distillers Guild and owns Hollow Spirits Distillery. We're going to start with Philip Sanchez. And what I want him to take us through is the new law, what it allows for, allowing for New Mexico spirits, how to apply for the license, and the restrictions that restaurants need to be aware of if they get this license. And then after that, I'm going to have Scott Fuel from Taylor Garrett Distillery talk about how to start a cocktail program and some of the monetary implications of having a cocktail program. And then Frank, if you're comfortable with it, I'm going to have you talk about the showcase that we have coming up in late September. So let's go ahead and get started. And y'all just chat your questions as you have them. We'll also probably open up the mics after this. We don't have that many people on, so we'll open up the mics after this and just answer your questions. So thanks everybody for being here. Let me go ahead and start with you, Philip.
Thank you. So my name is Philip Sanchez, and I am the division attorney for Alcoholic Beverage Control Division, for those of you who don't know me. So just to kind of give a little background, the Liquor Control Act now does have, since July of last year, 3 restaurant licenses. Really, it's actually 2 restaurant licenses. We have Restaurant B, which is beer, wine, and spirits, all national brands. But we have Restaurant A, which beer and wine only. And this is where our third one comes in, is the division has labeled it an A plus or Restaurant A plus licenses. And what that means is it's a Restaurant A license for beer and wine, plus a New Mexico Spirituous Liquors permit. Now, the license will have that printed right on there, indicating that this Restaurant A plus New Mexico Spirituous permit license can sell beer, wine, and New Mexico Spirituous liquors. The Restaurant A license, that fee remained the same at $1,050. And really the plus indication, again, as Ms. White said, was $500 additional at renewal. Now, there are or is one requirement for that plus. So in statute, you have to have held and operated a restaurant A license for a period of 12 months in good standing. What the division has interpreted as a period of 12 months good standing is holding and operating the license for 12 months, not getting it revoked, and not getting it or not suspending it for over a year in between. So while there can be some suspensions due to either violation or voluntary suspension, as long as you didn't, fail to operate it for a year or didn't renew it for an entire year, you would be eligible as long as you operated for 12 months. Now, that's the requirement to get the permit. There are requirements to maintain it, and that's the same as your basic restaurant A license. We still require that 60-40 split at renewal, 60% revenue, food, 40% is the maximum for alcohol. Additionally, you must stop selling, serving, and allowing your patrons to consume alcohol at 11 or when food service ceases, whichever is earliest. Now, to find out if you're in an area that is eligible for restaurant A plus licenses, it's anywhere, any local option district that allows for restaurant licenses. The other requirements, again, are your same restaurant requirements. You can't have an area that's designated primarily for the self-service consumption of alcohol. You can't have a bartender. And I understand this becomes a little tricky with that spirituous liquor, and it's going to be usually served in a cocktail of sorts. You may have an area where these drinks are prepared. You may have someone who specializes in making them. But again, by bartender, it's the sole act is tending the bar, right? That's their primary function is alcohol and not food service. But other than that, it's a pretty straightforward process in addition to the restaurant A license. And in fact, the way the division interpreted it initially, being that it does have that 12-month requirement, was we did apply those 12 months retroactively at first. So if anyone had been operating a restaurant beer and wine license before this law took effect for 12 months, we considered those 12 months as part of that 12-month period for good standing. Now, the permit application can be found if you already hold a restaurant A license and qualify for that 12, based on that 12-month period. The application can be found at our website. It is and I apologize, let's double check since I don't have it memorized. It is www.rld.nm.gov/ABC. Once you get to our division's webpage, you can scroll down to rules, laws, posters, or applications, forms, laws, rules. It's a tab that contains a lot of words on it regarding laws, rules, posters, or applications. And then we have all of our applications listed on that website. And you would be looking for a restaurant license, add A plus NM produced spirits permit. You click on that and there's a PDF of the application along with instructions. One thing that just so you're aware of, we do require updated zoning to ensure that the location you are at allows for spirituous liquor consumption. most of our zoning statements that we've received from restaurant licenses, it says, sale, service, consumption of beer and wine is a permissive use for this location. One thing we want to make sure is that that extends to spirituous liquors, which I don't think we've had any issues getting the LODs to provide that information. No. Let's see. I'm looking at the chat at the question here. I saw one pop up. Does the A+ license have the same restrictions as the B license? Same restriction in, again, 60/40 split, times and hours of operation, no bartenders, no bars.
Does it have a limit on drinks?
So that's interesting.
Yeah,
So
that's
the
a good
statute
question.
does specifically say that restaurant B licenses can only serve 3 spirituous liquor drinks to a patron in one setting. It does not include that in the restaurant A portion of the statute. So it does not statutorily have that same restriction. However, they still have the overall restriction of not selling to intoxicated persons.
Right.
Knowing spirituous liquors tend to be anywhere from 40% up in alcoholic percentages by volume. That's going to be up to the licensee to keep and monitor. Now,
Yeah.
if an A+ does want to also get a delivery permit, now that does have those restrictions. As far as delivery, I know we're kind of getting a little beyond just the basic A+ information, but since it's out there and it's always a
Sure.
possibility, A+ licenses with a delivery permit can only deliver a 6-pack of beer, a bottle of wine, a growler of New Mexico produced beer, a crowler, which by definition is half the size of a growler, or a
Thank you
howler,
for
it's half
that.
the size, containing a cocktail mixed by that restaurant. But it's limited to 3 drinks at 1.5 ounces each, so a total of, what is that, 4.5 ounces of spirituous liquors contained within it. And that's for all of those license types that don't have package sale. Restaurant A+ is being one of those. Now,
So I have a question.
Sure.
How does one get the liquor? Do we have to go through National, Southern, the big distributors, or can we get it direct from the distilleries?
So, being that we are still a 3-tier system model, we do require that, same as your beer and wine, you have to buy it from a New Mexico wholesaler. Now, some distilleries do hold New Mexico wholesaler licenses. Some of them are franchised with wholesalers. But since you do not have that statutory reciprocity that small brewers, wine growers, craft distillers have amongst themselves,
Right.
We still require adhering to the 3 tiers.
Got it. Okay. Interesting. And I'm sure Scott can tell us a little bit more about that. And if you'll stay on, I'm pretty sure Philip will have more questions for you as we go on. And let's go ahead and go to Scott. And Scott, talk to us about what does a program look like in a restaurant, and how much money can people make from selling New Mexico spirits?
Well, good afternoon. Thanks. The second question, of course, is the one I think a lot of people want to hear, but the answer to that is it depends. So let's talk a little bit about what a cocktail program can look like. And what's great about the New Mexico distilling scene is we're up to almost 30 operating distilleries, and some of them are, offering wide selections. Others are a little bit narrower selection, but the selection available to consumers and restaurants alike is very diverse. We've got some really nice agave spirits, as you mentioned, vodkas, gins, specialty liqueurs, aperitif style offerings, but even the finer whiskeys are available, and everybody's doing a great job. So your cocktail program or offering the spirituous liquors can be something as simple as offering a canned ready to drink that is very easy for your servers to prepare by basically opening the can and pouring it over ice, maybe garnishing it with something, to having a full-on cocktail program where you're mixing to order. I wouldn't recommend that for most, because that would pretty much require somebody as a bartender that's actually sitting there making those drinks. But a nice middle of the road option is to have a very limited set of specialty cocktails that pair well with whatever foods that you offer, or local New Mexico ingredients that can either be made on demand, just in a little secondary area where somebody's putting those together. They're very simple recipe to follow with some simple ingredients. Or they can even be pre-batched, so that, at the beginning of shift, the servers or whoever's responsible is making those drinks in a batch, and they're just as simple to serve as, again, that same canned cocktail where you're just pouring it over ice, garnishing it, and taking it out to the table. So it can be as simple or as complicated as you want to make it, depending on the level of experience that you want to offer to the customers in the restaurants. Now, what does that mean to the bottom line? And it's going to be difficult to say. Obviously, that depends quite a bit on your customer mix and the volume. But I know that our best guess is looking at some of the reciprocity with the breweries. And it was always very surprising to me to see breweries bringing in spirits, because it's a very different model. But they have been very successful in offering these batch cocktails. And a lot of these breweries are adding, $4,000 to $5,000 to their bottom line on a monthly basis, which is really pretty significant. Now, obviously, you've got to have the food sales to support that level of income, but it is certainly something that is achievable depending upon your volume and how many seats. I'm losing the term that restaurants use, but how many folks they have coming into the restaurants and the kind of volume that you're running. So there is a lot of opportunity there. I think there's great opportunity for particularly some of the smaller restaurants that have traditionally just offered the beer and wine. Now they can throw a margarita into the mix, perfectly batched cocktail that would be very simple to serve and could add quite a bit to the bottom line for our great New Mexican cuisine. And for some of those smaller bistro style restaurants that have, really nice food, you can have a really nice selection of cocktails that's very simple, and you don't go for call cocktails. We're not pouring rum and cokes, but we've got our, very special, gin infused with local botanicals that we've put into a barrel, and we top it with a little bit of hickory smoke and a cool garnish. So, there's a lot of different things that you can do. The possibilities are endless. And with the level of quality and selection that we have in New Mexico spirits, the options are limitless.
Well, and in this day and age, restaurants are really struggling to make money. Things are outrageously expensive. I think the wholesale food prices is up 17.6%, and we're not taking the increases in our menu prices, and therefore we are losing money. And so with a program like this, you can not lose money anymore. And that's kind of why I'm thinking that it would be great for restaurants to put this kind of a program in. Just, again, you've already got the beer and wine. You might as well put some New Mexico spirits on top of it. And with that, um, I'm going to ask Frank to step in here. And Frank, would you talk a little bit about the showcase that we're having later on this month?
Yes, hello everybody. I'm Frank Holloway from Hollow Spirits and also part of the Distillers Guild. And so what we're trying to do with this showcase is we want a one-stop shop to pretty much answer all your questions. For one, we're going to have 19 distilleries over there. So we're going to go over all the different products from the vodkas to the rums to the agave spirits to special liqueurs. Like we're going to go all over so you can know what you can serve. But then we're going to have the New Mexico Bartenders Association there so that you could get a menu or something tailor-made to what you do. Like Scott said, there's some places where they only have 4 or 5 cocktails and that's their whole menu. That's all they offered. And then it could go all the way to basically like an operation like ours where we could make pretty much any cocktail and things like that. But we have the Bartenders Guild's going to be there. We're also going to have some insurance people there. I do know a lot of people are really concerned about how much insurance is going to cost with alcohol. So we do want to get that covered. You can ask them all the questions. We're also going to have these fine folks from the state teach you how to apply or basically answer any questions that we can't from their perspective of what they think, the different rules, like not having a bartender. Do you have somebody in the back? But they'll be able to answer all of that stuff. We're going to have a little bit of food because, obviously being able to sample some liquor, we do want you to have some food options, but we're hoping that we could get all the questions answered in one spot, and this will be it. And I guess I should tell you when it is. But it is Monday on the 26th of September at 4:00. We figured all of us are restaurant folks, so on a Monday would probably be best for us since we're not actually serving. But the 26th from 4 to 7, it'll be at CNM main campus building. The building is called RPM, so 900 University. And even then, one reason that we're going with CNM is that people go find mixologists, they can find servers, we're trying to get it so everything's taken care of for you. A lot of people are kind of scared of spirits, and we kind of want to put that at ease and make everything a little bit easier for what you guys want. And then also think about what you specifically want. It doesn't have to be tailored to what me or Scott think about the situation. Like you could come up with an idea and we'll give you our honest opinion and tell you what works or what doesn't work, or from our experience. But I really do think spirits, for one, the margins in spirits, the amount of money you can make, the rings on food, it usually with the high rings on spirit drinks, people tend to order more expensive food. So there's definitely a lot of benefits if you do it right. So any questions, if you guys want to come experience it, hopefully we got a lot of knowledgeable people there. So we should be able to cover any questions, or at least there will be somebody there who will put you in contact with to answer all the questions that you have and hopefully help you out.
So this is an industry exclusive event. It's for people with restaurants only, and you can register through our website at nmrestaurants.org. It should be a lot of fun. I mean, we're gonna learn a lot about what's available here in New Mexico, and I just want to say that this isn't just for people who are exploring the A+ licenses. This is for people who have a full liquor license and want to add New Mexico spirits, because as people come in, if you're a high traffic tourist or destination, what better to have than New Mexico spirits to serve them? So let's don't think small. Let's think big. Let's really support this industry and support ourselves in doing so. Frank, did you have something else?
Yeah, and kind of like with the trend on New Mexico beer, basically we all saw the brewery boom, and now I'm pretty sure in everybody's place they're asking what kind of beer is local. That trend is starting to happen big time for distilleries and spirits. It seems like any place that they had a quote good beer culture, it's starting to turn into a craft distillery industry around there. And I think New Mexico has a very good beer culture. So this is kind of one of the things where it's gonna happen. People are gonna be asking for locally made spirits. So in the end, because trends and everything around the country, it is going this way, and it's going this way aggressively.
Yeah, I was telling somebody on one of the podcasts that I had been to Nashville and went to a local distillery there, bought some gin that was barrel aged in Cabernet barrels. Oh my God. I still remember that stuff. Of course, I drank it all, and it's gone now.
Well,
Um,
too bad.
I know. So as I really can't wait for the showcase because I want to see what you all are doing. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. You know what? With that, I'm going to open it up. If anybody wants to talk, there's only 21 of us, so you're welcome to unmute your mic and ask questions that you would like to ask. And if you're too shy to do that, don't hesitate to put something in chat.
Carol, we also just posted the link to the registration page for the
Perfect.
event as well.
All right, great. And for those of you who don't know what's going on at CNM, they have a fabulous brewery program as well as now a distillery program. Is that right?
Weekend's gonna be nice and cool though.
Colin, do you have something for us? You were unmuted.
I apologize. Well, I'm in the office and somebody's asking some questions. I apologize.
No problem. Does anybody have any questions?
Well, Carol, I'd like to add something, and I know that Frank touched on it a little bit, and I thought you were kind of going there at the end of talking about the money part of it. But one of the nice things about spirits is the margins, and that you can draw a premium for a nicely executed cocktail, and most of that is going to be profit. You can have $2 to $3 worth of liquor and additional materials in a cocktail that you're selling for $12. That's a pretty nice margin. There's not a lot of other beverages that are giving you those types of margins.
And there's no food that gives you those type of margins.
I know I wasn't going to go out on that limb. I'm sure of that.
I'll make that.
I'll stay in my lane, but so there's really a nice return on that. And then I think we kind of mentioned earlier on the difference between spirituous liquors, beer, and wine. And there's that stigma associated with the spirituous liquors, but typically you're looking at, a 1 to 1.5 ounce shot is the liquor that's going into a typical cocktail. That's the equivalent to the alcohol in, 5 to 7 ounces of wine and a 16-ounce beer. So it kind of translates across the board on a per drink basis traditionally for that amount of alcohol in each of those drinks. So it's really easy for the servers to monitor, and of course they're trained to do that as through the ServSafe program and as licensed servers, so they'll know along with the beer and wine how to not overserve.
Well, and that is a question, is it more expensive for liquor liability if you serve spirits? And I don't know the answer to that, and we are going to find out with some of these folks at the showcase. But the other thing is that with a restaurant, you're serving food, and that's the safest way to serve any kind of alcohol is with food. And for the most part, I think, Philip, I don't know what you know about the restaurants, but I don't think restaurants are the ones that are getting in trouble for over serving necessarily. I mean, that's just not what we do, really. So We have a couple of questions or a couple of people with their hands up. I think, Russell, you had your hand up first, and then I don't know if you put it down or not.
I did put it down. I just want to say that to everyone that down here in the southern part of the state, I am a holder of the enhanced license B. And over the past year that we've had that going, I have seen a good jump in my overall year-over-year sales. And I definitely attribute it to the fact of new people coming in based on my ability to serve spirituous liquors now, where they might go to a different place instead of coming to see me over here. Of course, my food sales is my primary business, so that kind of stays there. So to kind of help out with your liability question on that for my insurance, because I'm still staying at that 60-40 point, well below that actually. I still have my insurance hasn't increased or changed on that side with the adding of spirituous liquors. So just to throw that in there, but it's a win-win for everybody. And I as long as you're responsibly serving the alcohol and following all of the rules, and that's a great thing that just enhances your overall business and your business model. Highly recommend it.
Thank you so much. And Russell is my board president for the New Mexico Restaurant Association. Thanks, Russell. Really appreciate that insight. And we have somebody from Blade Ragon, from Blade's Bistro, I believe. You've got your hand
Hi,
up.
Carol.
Go ahead. Hi, how are you? Is this Anya?
Yes, it is.
How are you?
I am good, thank you.
Good.
As of what Russell just said about the insurance, when we got rid of our regular full burr liquor license in 2019, insurance did not give us a break because it's alcohol is alcohol. They say no matter if it's wine and beer or full liquor. So nobody should, if you just have food, then you will probably see an increase in insurance. But if you already had wine, then that should say the same. We got the license, plus it was very scary for me because we had a full liquor license, we had a full bore program with cocktails and muddling and bartenders, and suddenly we just find ourselves in beer and wine, and that was kind of easy compared to what we had before. So then we now got the A+, and we have no staff, but my staff kept bugging me for it. So I had it for 3 months before I even put it to use because I was kind of scared for it. And so we did just what Scott actually mentioned. Some of my servers said, hey, what about doing pre-batching? And what about this? Then all we have to do is over ice. And, then I said, you guys, you don't have time to make margaritas. You don't have time to do martinis. So we've been working for about 6 weeks now, and we're getting used to it. And we have pre-batches. So for the ones that are a little scared, the pre-batching is great. I just went to, Hobby Lobby and got those glass jars that stand up on the stand, that have a bunch of stuff. And we make like 3 pre-batches. We did the Manhattans, the margaritas, and the, what is the pink stuff? Cosmos.
Mm.
Yeah. So, and that seems to work well. The one thing that I found out and that my servers seem to be frustrated about is how do you deal with people constantly saying, hey, why don't you have Seagrams? Why don't you have this vodka? All of these, and they find themselves constantly almost fighting with people and arguing, saying, no, we have a local New Mexico distillery license, and people don't seem to get that. How do other people deal with that? How do other restaurants deal with that? Because I almost said, if this keeps going on, if people don't get it, what we have, I'm going to get rid of the stupid license. Of course I did not, and of course I will not. It was just pure frustration that I said we reapplied, for that. But it is kind of frustrating that people don't get it. And especially when New Mexico, Albuquerque, the newspaper, put such a bad article in the newspaper about 2 weeks ago on the front page about how restaurants are not struggling and how the New Mexico Restaurant Association is wrong with their predictions. And we did not lose 1,000 restaurants. I was so mad. I felt like calling that guy and said, I don't know where you've been, but not on this planet. So
Yeah,
But then of course,
I had the
yeah,
same reaction. It was more of a, oh, well, I must be wrong about the restaurant industry. So,
yeah, I was
yeah.
so ticked off about it. And when they said that the New Mexico Restaurant Association was wrong, so I thought to myself, if they had just put in there like, hey, you all, they have a new restaurant A+ license, go and help them out, and this is what that's about. But no. But then the what is it? The Albuquerque Magazine. They did put you in there, nice Carol. That just came out, and it has a whole blip on you. It's very nice. Yes.
Well, yeah, and that was through the Distillers Guild, and we're really
Yeah.
trying to get the word out. And I think what you're saying is brilliant because it tells us what we need to do. We need to get the word out, not just to restaurants, but also to the general public that
Yeah.
restaurants have the ability to have this license and know they're not going to be serving Seagrams and know they're not going to be serving Jose Cuervo, but they are going to be serving some great New Mexico spirits. And so, and I'm sure because you already had a liquor license prior to that, that's probably part of the problem. But I think what you're telling us here is that we need to get the word out there.
Absolutely.
And I have a question here from Jason. I believe this is for Philip. Go back to the specific laws for A+ and the restrictions. Is full service required? Does the 1 ounce max per drink apply? Do you understand that question?
So not 100%, but I'll try to cover it.
Okay.
So as far as the requirements for A+ licenses, as we call them and we refer to them, again, you need to have a dining room, full kitchen, staff to serve, similar to all of our restaurant licenses. And I don't know if that covers the full service portion of the question, being that, again, nothing changed in regards to any restaurant license pertaining to food service requirements, be it A+, or B. Now, as far as the 1 ounce per drink, ABC, even back when it was alcohol and gaming, considered a drink of spirituous liquors to be 1.5 ounces. So 1 drink of spirituous liquors, 1.5 ounces, you'll still have to adhere to the 2 drink rule. So at no point can you give a person more than 3 ounces of spirituous liquors at once. I don't know if that covers it. Now, again, going back to the idea that restaurant B licenses in statute do have that prohibition on more than 3 drinks to a patron in one sitting, equaling a total of 4.5 ounces. It's not in the statute, it's specific to restaurant B licenses. But again, ultimately, the goal is to prevent sales to intoxicated persons. And I believe the restaurant B license, that was specifically added in there because, again, they're now able to serve everything that a bar can serve. And I think during session, there was a lot of pushback on, to quote many of the people who sent in complaints during our rule process and who joined in the debates in the legislature, it was to prevent restaurants from becoming bars. And I think that was one way the legislature tried to do that. I hope that answers Jason's questions.
And Jason, you're always, you can always email me too. I have some knowledge of that, but not, I didn't realize that the A+ did not have those restrictions. So interesting. But again, we're not here to get people drunk. We are here to serve them food and have some nice liquor to go with it. So keep that in mind. I'm sure you all do.
Now, I apologize to cut you off. One thing I did forget to mention, and Scott actually reminded me when he brought up ready to drink cocktails, is restaurants with an A plus the delivery permit can deliver with an order of food, 3 12-ounce containers of manufactured, canned, or bottled ready-to-drink cocktails, as long as their ABV is 13% or less. And I believe most, if not all, of the ready-to-drink cocktails that are being made are within that threshold.
Yes, I think most are actually below 10%. They're in the 8 to 9.5% range typically.
And Scott, do you guys have those like cocktails in a can?
My
Some-
distillery does not, but there are several distilleries in the state that do. The ones that come to mind, I know that Troubled Minds is doing actually a bottled cocktail. Safe House Spirits has a nice selection of ready to drink. And I think the biggest producer of ready to drink is Little Toad Creek down in Silver City. So they've got a pretty big selection. I may be leaving some out, but I think those are the 3 that come to mind off the top of my head.
And
You
for some of
anybody?
you here, I know that Sadie's just came out with a bottled margarita or a canned margarita, and
Yeah.
it's fabulous. So consider that, you know, if you're in a restaurant and you want to sell liquor to go, you have to have a certain license. You can't just do that.
Carol, sorry to cut you
Yeah,
off. I was going
Colin,
to
no,
add
go
to what
ahead.
Scott was saying.
Go ahead.
I'm old and I can't figure out how to digitally raise my hand, so I was doing it actually. But we actually do like Troubled Minds does is bottled cocktails, but they are a higher proof, so they don't fall under the 12-ounce, you know, what's it, 3 12-ounce category. They're pre-made Manhattans, so we're actually catering to the restaurants that want to just buy a bottle and pour it for Manhattans and Negronis, and that does work for the home delivery, but we can only do one of them because there's basically 4 cocktails in the one bottle, the way we understand it. But you'll find that all the craft distilleries, just while I've got the soapbox for a minute,
Sure.
are actually quite happy to explain the cocktails. I think both Scott, Frank, and their teams and all the other distilleries would be happy to send people along to restaurants to show how we batch them, you know, and how we do them, and, you know, where to buy the cheap cherries, and, you know, why not cocktail sticks, where the recyclable stuff is to go and drink, etc. It would be something we're going to talk about at the event. I'm sure Frank mentioned that. Sorry I joined late, but happy to educate, you know, off the side. We'll all take plenty of business cards, and I know I can speak for the others when we don't mind phone calls to say, well, how does this work and how does that work? And just trying to, it's about education. As we all know, it takes a while for things to seep into the general public knowledge. That's why this kind of Zoom call is great for us all.
No, and we really appreciate it too, because you know, we've kind of gotten this partnership now with the Distillers Guild and the Restaurant Association, and you know, just trying to get the message out. It's going to take a while. It's going to take a while to get the message out to the general public as well. But I can see we've got a little bit of work to go there. And Anya, thank you for your insights, because I do think it's important to know what's happening out there, and how the general public is looking at this. Does anybody have anything else? Really appreciate you all being here. Philip, thanks for being here on behalf of Andrew and Scott, and Frank, thanks for being here as well. Really appreciate everybody who was on today and had things to say. We will catch you at the next webinar, and we don't have that up yet, so I'll let you know what that is. Keep an eye out on our newsletters, and really appreciate you all. Thanks very much for being here. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.